Except for the very young among us today, we remember the inconvenient truth about climate change raised by former U.S. Vice President Al Gore. No doubt there are many others. Yet another inconvenient truth about the American experience has to do with the influence of moneyed interests on what was taught to the young. Quite recently, I happened to come across several short videos of extraordinary importance regarding the teaching of the economic history of the United States. What I learned is that at the beginning of the 20th century, powerful interests provided the funding to rewrite history to eliminate criticism of the status quo. This was a deliberate campaign orchestrated by industrialists such as Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, and Leland Stanford, who made large donations to universities, endowing economics departments, and essentially guaranteeing that the research undertaken and the content of courses taught championed the American system and the legal privileges that had enabled them to accumulate wealth. Their influence also changed what was being taught to children in public schools across the nation. The story of one teacher, Edna Morse, has been resurrected to bring to light the influence of the powerful over what was to be taught to the young. For almost 2 decades, Edna Morse had been a school teacher in Osage County, Kansas. In 1901, she received notice from her county superintendent of schools to begin utilizing new standardized state-mandated textbooks. After reviewing the content, Ms. Morse concluded that the real history of the nation was written out of the new textbooks. In October of that year, she received a directive from the superintendent. She wrote the following response. I write to you regarding the recent restrictions placed upon my teaching curriculum. While I understand the desire for uniformity, I must express my firm determination to continue instructing my students in original economic history as I see fit. The foundations of this subject cannot be overlooked, and I will not disregard my obligation to provide a comprehensive education to my pupils. I trust you will understand my position. The information so far made available by others is not clear on what transpired over the rest of Edna Morse's teaching career. The following letter to her is dated in 1922. Its authenticity is therefore less than certain. The letter states, "It has been brought to the attention of this board that your recent history curriculum has placed an undue emphasis upon the history of land ownership and its role in creating wealth inequality. While discussions of history are necessary, focusing on divisive economic theories is deemed detrimental to the development of patriotic sentiment and civic unity among students. Therefore, you are hereby instructed to immediately cease instruction on these topics. Your curriculum must align strictly with the new mandated guidelines emphasizing industrial progress, technological achievement, and the opportunities afforded by the modern American economy. We expect your immediate compliance." The story told here was provided by a researcher who happened across letters in the Kansas State Archives. Edna Morse was one of many teachers of the era whose understanding of the nation's history was strongly influenced by the movement for economic reform initiated in the 1870s by the journalist and political economist Henry George. George's powerful analysis of the cause of economic cycles and the extent to which landed privilege resulted in income and wealth inequality appeared in his book Progress and Poverty, published in 1879. By the time Progress and Poverty was published, George had already made an impact on public awareness of what was thought of as the land question. What he had to say on the subject was captured in this volume titled Our Land and Land Policy. George had died of a stroke while campaigning in 1897 for election to the office of mayor of New York City. Thus, George was gone before the controversy over what was to be taught to the young occurred. Edna Morse held to her principles and was eventually discharged from her teaching position. After that, she faded into history until the recent discovery of the above historical documents. And for years thereafter, the young were taught that poverty resulted from individual weakness and bad luck, that the American system as it existed secured and protected the freedom so valued by everyone. Some of us, at least, grasped the significance of calls for limits to freedom. One 20th century philosopher, Mortimer J. Adler, argued that while we demand freedom, we should be demanding liberty only, as liberty is freedom constrained by justice. Adler emphasized that while freedom is essential, it must be regulated by justice to ensure it does not degenerate into anarchy or harmful behavior. During the early decades of the 20th century, many individual efforts were undertaken to continue teaching the lessons contained in the writings of Henry George. In 2024, I produced a video series to tell that story. The videos are available to view on my personal YouTube channel.